I think we can have everybody on the screen. I have collected some questions, and I would like to address this to you. First of all, to Alexander, I have a question to one of our audience. Please, you to explain in much detail the chart with the option for recycling for carbon fiber and glass fiber, and especially to explain the horizontal axis, the TRL level. So you may share again the slide and say a few words.
Okay, I will do my best to find that slide again. Very good. So I will just show this one. Voila. Okay, so the horizontal axis, that TRL level, is basically, the TRL stands for technology readiness level. So the L is there actually obsolete. It means the scale of the maturity of a certain technology. When you are talking about the TRL 4, 5, 6, we're talking about technologies where we've had pilot projects, small scale testing that would be used for a proving of the technology and see whether there is indeed value in pursuing this technology further. As we move to technology readiness levels 6, 7, 8, we are really at demonstration scales, which means you're trying to scale up the technology towards really market scale. And then the level 9 is, and then it stops, is really when the technology is commercially available. Yeah. So what you see on this slide is that, and we've seen it through all the other slides, at the moment, for recycling the glass fibers, mechanical grinding and co-processing are the only technologies that are ready today at scale to deal with the composite materials of the end-of-life blades. Yeah. For carbon fibers, it is a pyrolysis technology that is there. Yeah. The goal of the discussions, of course, is to get as much of those technologies that are now on the left-hand side to get them down to the right-hand side of the slides, so that they mature, become more performant, become more ready to deal with the market volumes that we expect. Yeah, and this is really a question also of providing and creating that market for those technologies, which has been the big block for those technologies. Yes, they were tested, but then there was not enough composite waste material collected in a cohesive, coherent way for those projects to grow naturally. Now, and that is also, now we see that happening. We have a better view of the pipeline of turbines reaching end of life, but we're also working very closely together with other sectors, because we are indeed just one part of that composite waste stream in Europe. Yeah, so boating, building, aeronautics, automotive, pooling those resources together will also help for those technologies to reach that required technology readiness level. So that was levels 9 and 8.
Okay, thank you. I think this was pretty clear. Me, I have a question for you, which is not from our General Secretary. I promise that I will pass you directly his questions afterwards.
Yeah, thank you.
What is the use case of the material coming out of your recycling process?
Yeah, so I think to really succeed with these various recycling options, we really need to ask that question, because this is what brings value. And if we are sort of bridging the technologies from somewhere where it's just a nice green stamp to something we do out of interest to gaining the value, we need to have a good use case. And our technology is really aiming to do a circular technology, meaning that the use case for recycled material will be the same as the incoming material, namely turbine blades or other composites. And I think that it is where we want to go, right? To be circular and to extract raw materials directly from our waste.
Thank you. Jonas, the question for you is, what is needed specifically to accelerate the blades recycling and to achieve our targets? I mean, as sector.
That's a good question and a broad question, right? So I think one of the important thing is that we ensure that the volume is there, so we can scale the technologies that are needed. And by that, I mean per market also, because it can be that we, as Alexander showed, have 60,000 tons in 2030, but if that's 2,000 tons in each country, that will not drive local solutions to it. So I think we need to do, as we have started doing, collaborate across sectors to pool the composites. We need to work together across companies as we do. And then I think legislation is needed to drive the composite to the solutions where we would like it to go, which is not landfill. So that would be the three high-level answers to your question.
Speaking of volumes, let me ask something from my side. I assume that during developing such kind of new techniques, one should have also in mind the volumes of composite materials coming from other sectors. So I assume that this will facilitate the decision to invest in R&D and implement new solutions.
Yes, right. You're right. So on the technology side, composites can in broad terms go to the same solutions. Then you have specifics like for blade where you would need special pre-processing steps and special logistic concepts that you don't need for, let's say, printed circuit boards. That is also a composite, right? So the way to get to the recycling technologies might be different for the different composite sectors, but once it reaches the solution there, I think we are all adding up all the composite numbers to try to see what is a good technology solution for a given practice. Yeah.
Yes, correct. Matthew, in the next session, we have a presentation from PPC, Public Power Corporation, to demonstrate us its experience in decommissioning and repowering of some wind turbines. But from your point of view, I have a question in the same manner. What is the bigger challenge an owner, the developer, will need to face when decommissioning its wind park?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it's one that we alluded to in the presentation. It's really having that plan in place early. If you can plan this process several years in advance of the actual end of life, and you can assess and know what is in your components, you know what materials you're going to encounter, you have a much better chance of succeeding, a much better chance of having a net benefit for your project rather than having a poorly managed and very expensive project on your hands. And probably the biggest part of that is knowing what materials are in your turbines and what materials you're going to come up against when you go to actually process them.
Correct. Thank you very much. Let me check if there are any other questions in the chat. No, there is no. So I thank you again. I hope that I will see you in Bilbao on the beginning of April in the Conference of Wind Europe. And for sure, we'll be in touch in order to further elaborate on this very challenging issue. Let's have a small break here.